Pittsburgh History and Landmarks Foundation started in the spring of 1964 when an out-of-work architectural historian, Jamie Van Trump, and I were cutting through what turned out to be a beautiful Victorian neighborhood, largely African-American, found a beautiful block that was quite rare, stopped, got out, and someone said, "What are you looking at?" And we said, "This beautiful block." And the man said, "You better look fast. The Urban Redevelopment Authority is going to tear it down." We checked. Neither of us were in the preservation business. I hadn't even heard of it. But not only was it to be torn down, but the entirety of North Side, which was about 7 neighborhoods and several thousand buildings. There were 1,500 buildings in Manchester, this district alone. So we put together an organization, and here we are. We've been at it ever since, and we're a very broad-ranging group. And in fact, in preservation groups, we're probably the broadest ranging. That is the most programs, most diversity of programs in the country. We've sort of developed a set of working principles and a toolbox. And the toolbox includes at its base education. Because most preservation comes about through crises, issues, and we figure if people could be educated, you wouldn't even need us. So we have educational programs for about 12,000 kids a year. We have a major publications program, academic solid books as well as later books, and innumerable walking tours and lectures and symposia and workshops to the extent of probably somewhere between 3 and 6 a week, almost every week of the year. We have an advocacy program like most groups, but our heart and soul is in real estate because preservation is all about real estate and in community action. We started in an African-American neighborhood. We are still in that neighborhood. We have another tool is lending. We're about to lend that neighborhood another sum of money to do some more houses in the next week. And we have developed a major investment in real estate because what we learned is wherever we are, we work with grassroots, we work with the bottom up. We never come with the answers, we come with the questions. We have one answer. Your architecture can help you revive your neighborhood, stabilize it, keep it, your main street, or your downtown. The historic buildings are what people gravitate to. You go to Europe, you go to see historic buildings. We have found we must be the first investor, so we buy. We never dislocate anybody. We buy the abandoned, those that have the roof sitting in the basement, those buildings that people say can never be restored. We find the means to subsidize them, restore them, and rent them for apartments, businesses, or low to moderate income housing, or sell them and get new people in the neighborhood. Almost all of that operates, of course, at a loss. In order to get things going, you have to subsidize, so we're always raising money. We found that beside doing it ourselves, if we could lend other organizations money to go do preservation, we'd leverage our money, and they'd be happy doing it. So we provide low-interest loan money and technical services, construction management services, so that neighborhood groups can do the same thing. We have a grant program to religious properties. There are 2 requirements to ask for our money. One is you have to be architecturally significant, and the other is you must provide social services to your neighborhood, because churches help stabilize neighborhoods and provide those services. And that program, now we've put, I guess, close to $1 million of grants out. I think we're 900 and some. In our loan program, over the years, the money goes round and round. We have loaned out about $18 million, got many millions more of that than in finished product. And we are augmenting those programs. We now have 4 different kinds of loan programs. So that gives you a bit of the range. I should add to that on the real estate side, we had quite an altercation with Mayor Tom Murphy a few years ago, who wanted to demolish 64 historic buildings, 4.5 acres of downtown for a brand new center. We organized everybody, grassroots, we beat them, and then there we were. And we realized the same thing was at play. We had to go buy some buildings that were in terrible shape and do them over. We did that, big risk, $5 million risk. We said we can bring quality retail back to downtown. As usual, people said no, no, no. We did 3 buildings. We united them, put in 7 handsome apartments and 2 shops. The shops were menswear. The shops that were said to would fail did so well that the 2 other major men's stores in downtown Pittsburgh moved within half a block, and we created a men's retail area. We're now going to try to create a women's retail area in 2 historic blocks, and we're acquiring 4 buildings there. Another tool is easements. When you get an easement, you control a building forever. And that program is vigorous with us. It's downtown, it's in neighborhoods, it's in the outskirts, and we do a lot of historic farms. Get 1 building under easement in the middle of a block, a developer can never tear down the block because he can't get that building in the middle. Every neighborhood that we've been working in, we continue to work in. We never walk away. And in one neighborhood, Wilkinsburg, similar, was a fine neighborhood at one time, deteriorated terribly, and as a sort of half and half, white-black, but poor now. We've gone in there, and instead of just doing a few, we had to buy 2 major buildings that were in terrible shape. The neighborhood and we decided to get a beachhead going. We never scatter resources. We start and let it ripple out. We have restored those 2 buildings, all for affordable housing. We have acquired 7 totally dilapidated houses, restored them at about $250,000 each, sold them all to moderate income people, $70,000 to $100,000 each. Gives us homeowners in abandoned houses. We've taken vacant lots off the county's hands and made side yards and sold them with the houses, so they are taken care of. And we now have about $12 million in that neighborhood of ours. And we also have supporting services that for which we have about $150,000 a year, and we've committed for 6 years. And one aside, on the corner, across from one of the buildings we were restoring, was a car repair shop, which owned a pit of a lot, 3 lots across the street, filled with car carcasses. Didn't boost our area very much. We acquired it. We filled the pit. We got the carcasses out of there. We filled the pit. And then we said, now what do we do with this thing? We started a preservation resource center in the front. We put in meeting rooms, work rooms. We run in that facility alone, usually at least 2 workshops a week, sometimes more. We are having an architectural series in August, 4 lectures in the evenings. We have workshops on how to restore your masonry, how to do your kitchen cabinets every week. People come from tri-state, 3 states, anywhere from 10 to 60 people. And then what we're going to do with the rest of the building, well, first of all, we had to put a new roof on this building when we got it. We had to fix the windows and garage doors. But we had 3/4 of the building we weren't using. We leased it to a sculptor who makes sculptures out of pieces of former Pittsburgh industry, steel, iron. And so he's running a kiln. He has the whole back area. He sells his stuff. And we were going to, for example, put in bicycle racks. Well, he said, I'll make your bicycle racks. I said, well, that'd be interesting. So I made 4 bicycle racks out of old Pittsburgh iron. It cost us no more than a rack out of a catalog that would have been completely undistinguished. Made a beautiful bench outside, unique old Pittsburgh materials. So we've got a nice synergy going, and that's something we're always trying to do in so many different ways. So, and of course we developed the project you're sitting in, Station Square. In the 70s, Pittsburgh was the third largest corporate headquarters city in America. We thought, well, we've been working in neighborhoods since '64. It's been working. People want preservation. Maybe we ought to show the corporate community you could make money out of old buildings. We had no money. We had no experience, as usual, but we landed on this site after 3 years of looking around, and we were able to make a deal with the railroad. They owned 42 acres, half a dozen historic buildings. It was a rail yard. There were no roads, no sidewalks. It was a railroad, lines everywhere. And we did no master plan. We had a sense of the market. We thought we would go step by step, building by building, and see what worked. Drove city planning crazy. We said, we're on a river. No one has ever sat beside the river in Pittsburgh and eaten, or shopped, or walked. And when we did the Grand Concourse restaurant, Chuck Muir did it downstairs. Everyone said the same thing. Oh, it'll never work. No one wants to eat beside a railroad track. Well, we were beside a river, looking at a skyline. He built the biggest restaurant in Pittsburgh. We will celebrate its 35th anniversary in 2.5 weeks. And that's a good run for a restaurant. It's going strong. And anyway, we slowly built Station Square in a city where people said no one visits, steel town, dirty town, beside a polluted river and a railroad track, where we were told there was no market for the retail or restaurants. We started in '75. We started with a Grand Concourse restaurant in this building that you're in. We spread out, and the railroad was receding because industry was receding. And slowly we took it all over. We added another 10 acres to the 42 at each end. And the point about urban renewal is there was no great plan. There was no great banquet announcing the plan. There was almost no subsidy, no tax forgiveness, all privately done by a nonprofit, and it worked. We had in this project no city money, no county money, no state money. We had $975,000 of federal money to build the first few feet of sewer, and a UDAG loan for 3%, which we paid back early. We had $11.25 million of foundation grants from Richard Scaife, and all the rest we financed. And we generated here, where there was a railroad business, 134 businesses when we sold in 1994. We generated 3,000 workers here. We generated taxes, real money to the city, county that had not supported us. No, we didn't ask them to support us. When we arrived, this site paid $42,000 a year in real estate and parking taxes. When we left, it paid $4 million. And we had 3 million visitors a year. The most popular place to come in Western Pennsylvania. And as you probably saw, the tours of Pittsburgh all still originate here. So we proved that this kind of renewal would work. Bottoms up, grassroots, sense the market, no grand plan, all though feeling your way with local sensitivity, and you don't need to take all that money from the taxpayer to do it.